Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Just Another Talk. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the WNBA. And I want to preface this complete video by saying I don't know a lot about all of the players in the WNBA. I really only know about Caitlin Clark, but boy oh boy am I going to start keeping track after what I just saw. Roll the clip.
What really got this escalated, so that was called a flagrant. Those two were technicals. Charles got a technical, and then Mabry for what we thought should have been 2 technicals and ejection. It was called just 1.
This is the Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Sun, and this game was chippy from the start. Sheldon, who has been a rival of Caitlin Clark since college, was chippy all game. It was a back and forth. It was one of those situations where they obviously don't like each other, or at least we're talking smack back and forth, and they got kind of heated. And I must say, for once, I see something in the WNBA that is genuinely interesting outside of the overall Caitlin Clark, hoopla and all the stuff that people have been saying, including Monica McNutt and some of the other analysts that have taken a more extreme side on this term, which I won't be getting into that in this video. But regardless, this is the kind of game that brings fans. This is the kind of animosity we want. You want that chippiness. You want that fight. I will say last night it was a little bit closer to Malice in the Palace.
End of the rack, lays it up, no, but we do have a whistle and a foul. Ben just went after our test.
Oh, that's not
we
good.
got trouble right here in the Motor City. We got big trouble here.
There goes Ben Wallace again.
There goes our test up into the crowd. He's absolutely out of his mind.
Obviously, it didn't get that bad, and if you don't know what that is, I suggest you look up the fight between the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons, which now that I mention it, what's going on with these Indiana teams? They're just scrappy, huh? But regardless, after getting hit in the face, Caitlin Clark does a little shoving, which I can understand on both sides. It did look like incidental contact. She was just trying to play D, hit her in the face. Caitlin gives her a little shove, and then tries to do her little walk away like she usually does, which I would suggest she doesn't do that. Just stand there. It might be better. You might not get tossed off your feet, but at the same time, maybe it's working to her advantage as well, because she's definitely not completely innocent in some of these interactions she's had, because, she's chippy, and I get it. I'm not even mad at that. I don't have a problem with that. And as you can see here, you have insert her name for me, because I don't know her name, but she comes over and knocks Caitlin over. And again, I don't have a problem with this either. You would think that Caitlin's teammates would actually have done a bit more. They jumped in and kind of got in the way, but you would think that it would kind of get to blows. And I'm not saying that it should be that, because I'm not trying to promote a fight or violence necessarily in the WNBA, but definitely showing that you're there for your teammate. Which leads me into my next point, because just shortly after this, you then have this situation.
Sheldon going coast to coast. And we got another breakers here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham. It was a hard foul.
So Sophie Cunningham goes to bat for her teammate. You see her pull her down, and as you can see from that video, I would say there's a little extra in there. She tried to foul her, and they're fierce competitors going at each other. JC had already started with Caitlin earlier, so now it was her chance to kind of get a little bit of revenge or retribution, whichever definition you want to use. Call it extra or not. Obviously they get into a little tussle. You see her grab her ponytail like she's not playing. There were no punches thrown, but it seemed like it seemed like sooner or later it was gonna go down. So once the refs got some order back in play, there were a few ejections made. JC was ejected, and another Connecticut Suns, as well as Sophie, was ejected. So overall, this game was one of those games where tensions were not only high, but it led to what I think a lot of fans like to see, and that's animosity built up between two people who completely don't like each other. I think the best spectacles when it comes to entertainment is when you have two people who really want to hurt each other, and we're talking about anywhere from UFC to football, basketball, even soccer, have these storylines that people follow deeply, that are deeply rooted in things that have happened for each team that the fans get in, and fan is a short word for fanatic. So if you think about it, this is exactly what people want. They want to become fans of J.C. Sheldon. They want to become fans of Caitlin Clark and all the other women who play in the W, and I think this is good for business. It's going to bring more eyeballs to the W, and I'm definitely going to start watching the W. I will add a little bit to this where you see that Caitlin catches a lot of flack in the league. She's been pushed around a few times, and there have been instances where they don't make the necessary calls to side with Caitlyn, which I don't necessarily understand. And I'm seeing this dynamic being built up of it's a race thing, and as a fan of a sport, I don't really care what you look like. I care how you perform, and Caitlyn is performing. Are there other women in the W who perform? For sure, I'm pretty sure there is. But to make this a race thing and to say that it's a white black thing, like Monica McNutt said, I think is a wild stance. And we want competition, and you guys want to grow that league. So the way to grow that league, guess what? You need storylines, and storylines require drama. We're not talking about bullshit drama. We're not talking about equality drama and race drama. That's not good for the bottom line. We want two fierce competitors pitted against each other who dislike each other and are willing to put their bodies on the line and everything they have in order to achieve a goal they've set out since possibly they were a little kid to achieve. That's what sports is about. That's what the spectacle is about. All the way back to the Roman times and the Colosseums when you had gladiator fights. So let's hope the W can really stay on track. And instead of trying to shun Caitlin Clark, let's hope that they embrace her, because I don't know about y'all, but I can't wait to see some more of these games, especially against those competitors who really dislike Caitlin Clark. Real quick, too, I'll add that Caitlin Clark isn't completely innocent, because she be talking her shit. She be jabbing, even in college. The whole reason Angel Reese caught a bunch of flack was because Caitlin was doing the "you can't see me," and then Angel Reese came through and said, "you can't see me." Now, I wouldn't say Angel Reese is the caliber of player that Caitlin Clark is, but I'm definitely not just going to say that Caitlyn does absolutely nothing. She's a goody two-shoes. She be talking her shit. And I'm okay with it. Talk your shit. I want everybody to talk their shit. But just don't talk shit and then can't handle it. If you notice Caitlyn talks shit, she gets knocked down, she gets up. You haven't really seen her complain. Meanwhile, Angel Reese is complaining left and right and then crying at press conferences talking about she's being objectified while shaking her ass on a podcast with Sexy Red. So listen, I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole. We know what it is. As far as the sports, y'all tell me what you think in the comments. Let me know. Are you on Caitlin Clark or are you against Caitlin Clark? I think Caitlin Clark might be the Kobe of the W, just a different kind of player, but as far as the animosity that's in the league towards her, it's kind of similar to when Kobe was playing. What do you guys think? Don't forget, share, like, and subscribe, and until next time.